Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Body Swapping Stories YouTube channel. Please subscribe to get notifications when new stories come out. Let us know in the comments below of what you think of this story. Enjoy!
Have you ever done something so terrible in a moment of weakness that it changed your life forever? Have you ever let jealousy and bitterness drive you to betray someone who trusted you completely? Have you ever realized too late that your actions have consequences you never imagined? That's what happened to me. My name is Chad, or at least it was. Now I'm not so sure anymore. Dawn and I had been friends since high school. Well, friends might be stretching it. Looking back, I can see how one-sided our relationship really was. Dawn was always in my shadow, the sidekick to my leading role. He was the guy who helped me with homework, covered for me when I got in trouble, and made me look good by comparison. And I let him hang around because, honestly, it made me feel important. After high school, nothing really changed. We went to the same college, and I continued to be the cool one, while Dawn remained the reliable background character in my life story. He got a decent job working in tech, while I jumped between bartending gigs, relying more on my charm than ambition. Dawn was always there to bail me out when rent was due or buy me drinks when I was broke. Then Elise happened. Dawn met her at some social circle, and from the moment he showed me her picture, I knew I wanted her. She was stunning. Blonde hair, piercing blue eyes, and a beautiful body. What Dawn saw in him, I couldn't understand. What she saw in him was an even bigger mystery. For months, I watched their relationship blossom. I saw Dawn happier than I had ever seen him, and it ate at me. Why should he have someone like her? I was always the ladies' man in our friendship. Women fawned over me. How did he land with a woman more beautiful than most of my conquests? The bitterness grew inside me, festering like an infected wound. Then came that night. Dawn had to work overtime, some big project deadline. Elise was upset and alone. I suggested drinks to cheer her up. One drink led to 2, then 3. She talked about Dawn, about how much she missed him, about how hard he was working. Each word about how wonderful he was twisted the knife of jealousy deeper into my gut. I didn't plan what happened next. Or maybe I did, somewhere deep in my subconscious. When she was drunk enough, I made my move. She hesitated at first, mentioning Dawn, but the alcohol had lowered her inhibitions. "He's too busy for you," I said. "He doesn't appreciate what he has." After a moment's consideration, she kissed me back, her eyes lighting up with the thrill of forbidden fruit. We ended up back at her place. She was surprisingly enthusiastic, excited by the taboo nature of what we were doing. I was riding high on finally having what Dawn had, on taking something precious from him. The encounter was passionate, fueled by alcohol, my bitter resentment, and her drunken abandonment of inhibitions. After we finished, Elise was still giddy and exhilarated. There wasn't a hint of remorse on her face. In fact, she was laughing, running her fingers through her hair with a mischievous smile. "That was fun," she said, looking completely satisfied with what we had done. "Our little secret." She seemed to be thoroughly enjoying the forbidden thrill of what had just happened, with absolutely no sign of guilt or regret. We were lying in bed talking, Elise still occasionally giggling, when her phone rang. Dawn's name flashed on the screen. Elise answered it, her cheeks still flushed from our activities, that smile of taboo pleasure still on her face.
I couldn't hear his side of the conversation, but I saw her face transform as they spoke. "I love you too," she whispered into the phone, tears suddenly welling in her eyes. "I'll see you tomorrow." When she hung up, she looked at me with horror, the full weight of her actions crashing down on her. "You need to leave," she said, her voice shaking. "This was a terrible mistake. Get out." The next day, she told Don, despite my frantic texts begging her not to say anything, she confessed everything. She told him about the drinks, about her moment of weakness, about how we'd both made a terrible mistake. Through tears, she admitted she'd been a willing participant, but that hearing his voice had made her realize how much she loved him and how deeply she regretted betraying that love. She swore it was a mistake she would never repeat and begged for his forgiveness. Don's response was cold and unforgiving. "I hate cheaters," he told her flatly. "We're done." Elise broke down, sobbing uncontrollably, promising she would do anything to make it right. She pleaded with him not to throw away their relationship over one mistake. "Please, Don," she begged, her voice raw with desperation. "I love you. I'll do anything. Just don't leave me." But Don was resolute. The betrayal had cut too deep. He turned and walked away, leaving Elise devastated and alone with her regret. I know all this because Elise called me afterward, hysterical with grief and rage. "You ruined my life," she screamed through her tears. "I lost the love of my life because of you." I tried to apologize, to tell her we were both at fault, but she wouldn't hear it. "Don is the only man who ever truly loved me," she sobbed. "I'm going to get him back, no matter what it takes. I'll never stop trying." Then her voice turned cold. "Stay away from me, Chad. Stay the hell out of my life. If I ever see you again..." She didn't finish the threat before hanging up. That was the real purpose of her call, to warn me off. That was the last time I heard from her. Or so I thought. I never thought Don would confront me. He wasn't the confrontational type. He had always been the one to back down, to take whatever scraps of friendship I threw his way. But I underestimated him. I underestimated him in ways I couldn't have imagined. It was a Tuesday night, exactly 1 week after Elisa's angry call, when my phone buzzed with a text from her number. "Come over, need to talk." I was surprised to hear from her after that final warning, but part of me was relieved. Maybe she'd calm down. Maybe she wanted to clear the air. Or more likely, she wanted to confront me again. Maybe even blame me for Don not taking her back. Either way, I decided to go. I had no idea what was really waiting for me. When I arrived at her apartment, the lights were dimmed. I called out her name, but there was no answer. Then I saw Dawn step out from the shadows of her living room. "Hey, buddy," I said, trying to sound casual despite the panic rising in my chest. "What are you doing here?" Dawn's face was eerily calm. "I know everything, Chad, about you and Elise." I started to deny it to make up some excuse, but he cut me off. "Save it. She told me everything. About your night together, about how you both betrayed me. She admitted it was consensual, which only makes your betrayal that much worse. She chose to be with you, my supposed best friend. Look, man, I can explain. Can you explain why my best friend would betray me like this? Can you explain why I would try to take the one good thing in my life?" His voice never rose, which somehow made it worse. "Where's Elise?" I asked, looking around nervously. A small, unsettling smile appeared on Don's face. "Don't worry about Elise. She's been taken care of." Something about the way he said it sent chills down my spine. "What did you do to her?" "Nothing she didn't deserve, but now it's your turn."
Before I could react, Don raised his hand. There was a strange glow emanating from his palm, something that shouldn't have been possible. I tried to back away, but my body wouldn't move. I was frozen in place as the light grew brighter, enveloping me. "What the hell is this?" I managed to say through clenched teeth. "This," Don said, his voice now laced with power I never knew he possessed, "is what happens when you push the quiet one too far." The light became blinding, and pain shot through every cell in my body. I felt like I was being unmade, torn apart at the molecular level, only to be reassembled into someone else. I screamed, but the sound that came out wasn't my voice. It was higher, softer, feminine. When the light faded, I collapsed to the floor, gasping for breath. My body felt wrong, lighter, curvier, different in ways I couldn't immediately process. "What?" I started, then stopped at the sound of my voice. It wasn't mine. It was Elise's. Don stood over me, his face now a mask of cold satisfaction. "Look at you, Chad. Or should I call you Elise now?" I scrambled to my feet, which seemed smaller and farther away than they should have been. I rushed to the hallway mirror, and what I saw made me stagger backward in shock. Staring back at me was Elise, her blonde hair, her blue eyes, her face. My face now. "Please, man, not like this," I begged, unable to control the panic rising within me. "We are best friends." Best friends? Hardly. Does best friends betray each other by sleeping with the other one's girlfriend? "Come on, Don. I'm really sorry," I said, my new voice trembling. Don's face darkened. "You slept with Elise. You betrayed me, your supposed best friend." The anger in his voice made me flinch. "You really thought I wouldn't find out about it? Well, I did. And this action was the final straw. I'm gonna make you pay for it. And for every other bad thing that you ever did to me." "But how?" I gestured wildly at my new body, my mind still struggling to process what was happening. "I don't want to bore you with the details," Don said with a smile. "Let's just say that I have means beyond what you thought possible. And as you've already noticed, I've turned you into a perfect copy of my girlfriend, the one you just had to have, even if it was only for one night." "But what about Elise?" I asked, suddenly worried about what had happened to the real Elise. "Well, all you need to know is that I've already taken care of her." Don's smile turned cold. "And she won't be going anywhere for a while, so she won't be able to cheat on any other man for a while. There's just you in her place." How long do I have to be like this?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Don shrugged, his expression unreadable. "I haven't decided yet." The finality in his voice made my blood run cold. I couldn't stay like this forever. I couldn't be Elise for the rest of my life. I had to fix this, had to convince him to change me back. "Don, please," I said, taking a step toward him. "I know what I did was wrong. It was the worst thing I've ever done, but please give me a chance to make it right." Don just stared at me, his eyes cold and distant. He didn't respond, didn't give me any hope to cling to. Desperation surged through me. I had to do something, had to find some way to reach him, to make him understand how sorry I was. Without thinking, I closed the distance between us and dropped to my knees. "Please, Don," I begged, looking up at him from Elise's pace. "I'll do anything at all to make this right, to get you to change me back." Don's expression didn't change. He just looked down at me, silent and unmoved by my pleas. A terrible, desperate idea formed in my mind. Don had lost Elise because of me. He had been betrayed when she chose me over him, even if it was just for one drunken night. Maybe if I gave him what he had been denied, he would forgive me. With trembling hands, I reached for his belt. "Let me show you how sorry I am," I whispered, my new voice cracking with fear and desperation. Don didn't stop me, but he didn't help either. He just stood there, watching as I fumbled with his belt, my smaller fingers struggling with the buckle in a way my old hands never would have. I tended to his garden with my lips, a desperate apology in every movement. When it was over, I looked up at him hopefully, searching for any sign of forgiveness. "Don," I ventured tentatively, did that help? Are you any closer to forgiving me, to changing me back?" Don fastened his pants, his movements deliberate and unhurried. "I don't know," he said finally, his voice flat, "but don't think one act erases what you did." "Of course not.
I said quickly, relief flooding through me at this small acknowledgement. I know it will take more than that. I know I have to really prove how sorry I am. Don nodded once, then headed for the door. I need to think. I'll be back tomorrow. After he left, I sat on the floor for a long time, trying to process what I had just done and what had happened to me. The reality of my situation was beginning to sink in. I was in Elise's body. I had Elise's voice, Elise's hands, Elise's everything. I looked down at myself, at the clothes I was wearing, a light blue blouse and a skirt, and felt a wave of disorientation so powerful I thought I might pass out. Eventually, I got to my feet and made my way to the bedroom. I stood in front of the full-length mirror, staring at my reflection, at Elise's reflection. Slowly, with trembling hands, I began to unbutton the blouse. I slipped it off my shoulders, revealing a purple bra underneath. I unzipped the skirt and let it fall to the floor, exposing matching purple panties. The sight was surreal. Me, in Elise's body, wearing her delicate underwear. I turned from side to side, taking in the shape of my new form, the weight of breasts on my chest, the narrowness of my waist, the curve of my hips. It was all so foreign, so unlike the body I'd lived in my whole life. I reached behind me, struggling with the clasp of the bra, until it finally came loose. I let it fall away, then slipped off the panties, standing completely naked before the mirror. This was Elise's body, every inch of it now mine. The reality of that hit me with full force, and I felt a confusing mix of emotions: fear, shock, humiliation, and something else I couldn't quite identify. I needed to shower, to wash away the events of the night and clear my head. As I stepped into the bathroom, I caught sight of myself again in the mirror above the sink. It was still jarring to see Elise's face where mine should be, to watch her lips move when I spoke, her eyes widen when I was surprised. As I soaped the twin blossoms on my chest, I was surprised by their sensitivity. When my hands traveled lower to the uncharted territory beyond, I hesitated briefly before allowing myself to cultivate this new garden. I discovered a sensitive rosebud that responded to the lightest touch and ventured into the secret valley beyond. By the time I stepped out of the shower, I had gained valuable knowledge of my new landscape, insights I'd use to my advantage with Dawn.
That night, I lay awake in Elise's bed, staring at the ceiling, trying to come to terms with my new reality. How long would Dawn keep me like this? What was I supposed to do in the meantime? Live Elise's life? The thought was terrifying. I didn't know the first thing about being a woman, let alone being Elise specifically. The next few days were a crash course in femininity. I learned through trial and error how to apply makeup, how to style my hair, how to walk in heels without toppling over. I went through Elise's closet, trying on different outfits, getting a sense of her style. It was overwhelming at first, but gradually I began to find a rhythm, to understand the routines of this new body. What surprised me most was how differently people treated me. When I finally went outside to buy groceries, I noticed men's eyes following me, some openly staring, others trying to be subtle about it. Another offered to help me with my bags. The cashier called me sweetheart. It was disorienting, this constant awareness of being watched, evaluated, assisted in ways I'd never experienced as a man. There were challenges too. I felt vulnerable walking alone at night in a way I never had before. When Dawn returned the next evening, I was better prepared. I'd chosen an outfit I thought would appeal to him, had practiced my makeup until it looked decent, had rehearsed what I would say. "Dawn," I said as soon as he walked in, "I've been thinking about what happened, about what I did to you. I never realized before how selfish I've been, how I've taken advantage of our friendship for years.
Dawn said nothing, just watched me with those cool, evaluating eyes. I continued, I want to make it right. I want to show you how much I regret what I did. And not just for what happened with Elise, but for everything. For all the times I treated you like you were less than me. Like you were just there to make me look good. Still, Dawn remained silent, but I could see something in his eyes. Interest, perhaps? Or skepticism? Please, I said, approaching him, let me show you how much I regret what I did. That night, I welcomed Dawn into Elise's bed, my bed now. It was strange and terrifying and enlightening all at once. His garden tool was impressive, a mighty redwood compared to mine before all these. As he tended to my newly discovered landscape, I experienced sensations I'd never imagined possible. Deeper, more encompassing, more transformative than anything I'd known as a man. Afterwards, as we lay side by side, I dared to ask, does this help at all? Am I any closer to earning your forgiveness? Dawn looked at me thoughtfully. He said, still don't know, echoing his words from before. We'll see. The days turned into weeks, and a strange routine developed. Dawn would visit every few days, and each time I would try to show him how sorry I was, how much I wanted his forgiveness. Between his visits, I lived Elise's life as best I could. I discovered notes on her phone about her job as a freelance graphic designer, learned her clients, her projects, her deadlines. I worked on maintaining those relationships, terrified of raising suspicions. But something unexpected was happening alongside my efforts to regain Dawn's favor. I was starting to not mind being Elise. The initial shock and disorientation were fading, replaced with a growing comfort with this body, this life. I found I enjoyed the clothes, the makeup, the sensations of being in this form. I was getting better at navigating the social challenges of womanhood, at using the advantages it sometimes offered while mitigating the disadvantages. In quiet moments alone, I would sometimes cultivate my new garden alone, learning its responses, its preferences. The experiences were enlightening, but always left me with a lingering sense that something was missing. The fullness, the completeness I felt with Dawn.
This realization disturbed me. I was supposed to be doing all this as penance, as a way to earn back my male body. I wasn't supposed to be enjoying it, wasn't supposed to be adapting so well, wasn't supposed to be craving Dawn's touch. And yet, I found myself looking forward to his visits with an eagerness that had nothing to do with my original goal of redemption. 1 month after my transformation, I was sitting on the couch reading one of Elise's books when my phone buzzed with a text from Dawn. "Coming over tonight. We need to talk." My heart raced at the message. The addition of "we need to talk" sent a wave of anxiety through me. Had he decided? Was he going to change me back? The thought filled me with a confusion of emotions. Relief, yes, but also a strange sense of loss. I spent the afternoon preparing, choosing my outfit carefully, styling my hair, applying makeup with practiced skill. By the time Dawn arrived, I was a bundle of anticipation and nerves. Dawn entered the apartment with a serious expression. "We need to talk," he said, again, echoing his text. "About what?" I asked, my heart pounding. "About Elise," Dawn replied. "The real Elise." My blood ran cold. What about her?" Dawn walked to the bedroom, and I followed, confused and afraid. He stopped beside the bedside table and placed his hand on the lamp that had been there since my transformation. "It's time," he said softly. Before I could ask what he meant, the lamp began to glow with an intense light. The light grew brighter, taking shape, forming a silhouette that was painfully familiar. When the light faded, Elise stood there, the real Elise, looking disoriented but very much alive. "Elise?" I gasped.
her voice, cracking with shock. She looked at me, then at Dawn, her eyes wide with confusion and something else. Understanding? "She's been here the whole time," Dawn explained, his voice gentler than I had heard him in weeks. "Watching, listening, seeing everything that's happened." Horror washed over me as the implications sank in. Elise had seen everything, every moment of adjustment, every struggle, every intimate encounter with Dawn. She had been a silent witness to my transformation from reluctant prisoner to willing participant. I began, but what could I possibly say? How could I explain or justify what I had become? "I've seen everything," Elise said, her voice strange to hear from someone other than myself now. "Every moment since you took over my body, I know how you've been using it, what you've been doing with Dawn." I looked down, unable to meet her gaze, unable to deny the truth of her words. "I understand why you did it," she continued, surprising me. "I've watched you learn what it means to be vulnerable, to be on the receiving end. I've seen you discover what I've always known, that Dawn is a remarkable man, in more ways than one." I looked up, confusion mixing with the shame on my face. "You're not angry?" Elise's expression hardened. "Of course I'm angry. I made a terrible mistake that night," she admitted. "But what's been hardest is watching Dawn with you in my body. Every time he touched you, made love to you, it was torture. Dawn is mine," she declared firmly. "I've had weeks trapped as a lamp to regret my foolish decision, to wish I'd never betrayed him. I won't make that mistake again, and I won't share him either." Dawn placed his arm around Elise, pulling her close. "Elise has learned her lesson," he said to me, "and I've decided to forgive her betrayal. The question now is, what do we do with you?"
My heart raced. This was it, the moment I had been waiting for, the chance to get my body back. But something held me back from immediately begging for my old form. "I think it's obvious," Elise interjected before I could speak. "He should be changed back immediately. I don't want someone who looks like me anywhere near you, Dawn." Her eyes narrowed as she looked at me with pure jealousy. "You've had your lesson. Now you need to go back to being Chad and stay far away from my man. I'm not about to let another woman who looks like me touch him, even if it's you inside." Dawn looked at me, his expression questioning. "Is that what you want? To go back to your old body?" I opened my mouth, but no words came out. Did I want to go back? After everything I'd experienced? The sensations, the emotions, the perspective I'd gained. "Of course that's what he wants," Elise insisted, stepping between us. "Why would anyone choose to stay in a body that isn't theirs? Besides, I don't want him here anymore, not looking like me, not after everything that's happened." Dawn considered this for a moment, then nodded slowly. "I suppose that makes sense. The punishment has served its purpose." Before I could protest, Dawn raised his hand. That familiar glow emanated from his palm, and I felt that same tearing sensation, that same unmade feeling as my cells rearranged themselves once more. When the light faded, I looked down to see my old hands, my old body. The clothes I was wearing had transformed with me, returning to the outfit I'd worn the night I first came to Elise's apartment. I rushed to the mirror and saw Chad staring back at me, the same face I'd worn for years before this all began. "There, it's done. You're back to normal." I forced a smile. "Thank you," I said mechanically. "I appreciate you changing me back." Elise looked satisfied. "Good. Now you can go back to your life and leave us to ours." I nodded awkwardly. "I guess this is goodbye then." Dawn offered a small smile. "Take care of yourself, Chad." I left without another word, walking out of the apartment that had been my prison and then my home for the past month. As I stepped outside in my male body, everything felt wrong. Too heavy, too rough, too dull. But I kept walking, determined to try to readjust to my old life.